Well, hello there, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, please make sure you hit like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. So today we are going to be taking a look at a recent kind of hilarious guitar acquisition. This guitar right here, the AliExpress Mick Kramer Girls Knockoff. I'm going to kind of give you the good, the bad, the ugly on this guitar. And yeah, just some general thoughts and opinions on it. I've left this exactly as it came out of the box. Haven't really touched a thing. The intonation is still way out and terrible. This is still the stock pickup. This is still the stock bridge. I'll show you exactly how this comes to you, direct from China, out of the box, and how it plays. So let's get going. Anyway, so before we get into this, let's just talk about how this thing showed up to me, just because this is always a question I get about these AliExpress guitars. How are they shipped? How long does it take for them to get to you? Things like that. So to start that off, I will say that this came quite nicely packaged in a styrofoam guitar box. It was wrapped in a nice protective internal kind of sheath, the same sort of thing you would find if you order something new from pretty much any large distributor or other manufacturer. So that part is fine. The styrofoam, of course, is a bit of a bummer. That's just going to go in the garbage, which is an awful waste. But the guitar is safe, which is the important part. As far as the stuff that it came with, obviously it came with the bar for the tremolo. It came with this lovely cheap strap, which I wasn't expecting, so that's a bonus. In addition to the lovely strap, you get a couple of picks. Not exactly sure why they included these, but you get 2 picks in that case. A really craptacular patch cord. Again, I'm not sure who they think is actually going to buy these things, but you get a patch cord, and it's really thin. I don't know if that affects tone. Wouldn't recommend using it, so you get that. You also get these, which are kind of necessary. These are, of course, the Allen keys that are required to A, adjust this bridge, and B, tighten your lock nuts. So thanks, Ali. I always need more of these. And this wasn't in the case, it was actually on the guitar. This is obviously the back plate. I took it off just because I had to adjust these springs here. One of them had fallen off in transit, so I had to put that back in. You will notice, obviously, that the holes are a little bit off center, but that's actually to compensate with the way that this is routed. When you put it on, it actually lines up accurately and seems to give you access to the spring claw screws, which is surprisingly good. I didn't expect them to give me one that was actually meant for a guitar routed this way. The last few I've gotten, the back panels have been really just an afterthought and not really relevant to the guitar they were on at all. Like, you get something with a Floyd and it's got, 6 holes on the back, like it's got a Strat trim or something. Anyway, pretty happy about that, so thanks. As far as shipping itself goes, I will say, as with anything you order from AliExpress, things do show up, but they take a long time. I ordered this particular instrument, I think it was February the 13th. I didn't receive this until a couple of days ago on May 15th. So we're looking at a 3-month door-to-door wait time to get your hands on one of these, and that's assuming that customs doesn't hold on to it or you get any other hiccups in shipping itself. I will say this might have taken slightly longer than usual because this one in particular was built to order. They did have it listed on the website, but of course when I contacted them, I wanted a few things done differently, and I'll explain those later on, but that caused them to go back and build me essentially a new guitar. But we'll talk about more of that later. Anyway, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Here we go. All right, so the good. It's a guitar. It is obviously a Girls Mick Kramer knockoff from the 80s. Of course, Kramer doesn't make these. They aren't reissued, so you can't get one of these. For me, the allure to this thing is it's a Telecaster with a Floyd Rose, something you don't really see is very common in most product lineups. Now, there are a few options available from companies like ESP or LTD, Charvel, stuff like that, but for the most part, you're not going to find an affordable Tele with a Floyd Rose on it. They're just not out there. So that's positive. The big positive I can say about this out of the box, this neck feels pretty good. I mean, the frets aren't really sharp or anything. They're not stabbing my hand. The leveling job seems to be not too terrible, which is shocking. The neck itself, nice and straight, which again is not something I was expecting. Usually these require, a couple turns of the truss rod to get them back to where you want them, but this one is pretty good. It feels good too. I mean, it doesn't really feel like my other Kramers. It kind of feels more like a flat fender, if that makes any sense. But the shape of it itself is quite comfortable. The quality of the build too looks to be pretty good. This one is just, as you can see, it's gloss on the back here. But yeah, it's a good feeling neck, and I'm gonna say this is probably the best neck I've received from AliExpress so far out of the 3 guitars I have. So yeah, A+ AliExpress, I like this neck. Just while I'm talking about the neck, I should probably chat about the tuners. Whoopsies, let me get that tuner off of there so you can see my tuners. So these tuners are just unbranded black tuners direct from AliExpress. I don't know much about them. There wasn't really any write-up in the specifications of what these are. The ratios on them feel pretty good. They feel sturdy. They feel a lot better than the tuners that came on my Randy Rhodes polka dot V from Ali, as well as the 5150 knockoff that I have. I'll leave some cards to those two videos just in case you guys wanted to check those out as well. But yeah, these so far are the best tuners I've had out of Ali. I probably won't change these because they feel totally fine. Speaking of the good, we should talk about the headstock. Now I'm going to go ahead and say this is good. This looks obviously like a Kramer headstock from the era that you would see on this particular McMars model. The reason I'm saying this is good, even though there's no logo here, is exactly that. There is no logo. When I ordered this, it was going to come with a logo on it. I specifically asked them not to put a Kramer logo on there. This is obviously an interpretation of that guitar, but putting the actual trademark logo up there is creating a counterfeit product, which I don't really want to be party to. So, I mean, if I choose to put a water slide on there or something later, that's, you know, of my own volition and it's on me, but it's not another manufacturer passing off their product to somebody else's. A little less nefarious this way, and I feel a little bit better about it. But yeah, no, the quality on this headstock is pretty okay as far as the shape goes. Glad there was no logo put on there. One thing I will say though is, I don't know if you can see this here, my truss rod cover is a little bit off center. Not the end of the world, but just something that isn't quite right. It's not something you're really going to notice unless you're staring at it. I might take it off, fill the holes and adjust it a bit, but we'll see what I do with this in the future. As far as the radius goes, I'm actually not sure what this is. It looks quite flat. I'm going to say probably 12 inch, maybe 12 inch. I mean, it's got a bit of a curve to it. Nothing too insane, but fairly flat, which I figure is probably more accurate to the actual Kramer they're trying to imitate here. Truss rod adjustment, of course, is available behind the truss rod cover. I haven't taken it off to touch it yet. Hopefully everything still moves. I mean, that's always a gamble with inexpensive guitars like this, how it was actually put together, but so far, things seem to be okay as far as the neck is concerned. Your scale length is your typical Kramer or Fender scale length, of course, as long as you're not thinking about something like a Night Swan. We're looking at 25.5 inches. I'm not sure what the material is. It looks to me like rosewood, maybe Brazilian rosewood. We'll talk more about this later. But yeah, you've got, you know, 22 frets. You can get up there and do what you want. I will say, of course, the intonation on this is absolutely terrible. This is fresh out of the box. I haven't touched anything, so yeah, the intonation is not good. It's really sharp. But we'll chat about that more as we go on. All right, carrying on with the good. I'm not going to necessarily say that the finish is good. I will say that the routing here is good. And what I mean by good is this is definitely the best AliExpress routing I've had so far on a guitar. Like, this looks like nice, clean, concise routing, probably using a relatively new bit. So, I mean, yeah, that's pretty good. I'm not going to complain too much about that. I haven't had this cavity cover off yet, but so far the routing seems to be good. The body dimensions and shape seem to be pretty good. The clear coat leaves a bit to be desired. But aside from that, I can't complain too much. Another point that's good about this, for those of you that have seen my other videos on AliExpress guitars, know these usually show up absolutely reeking, probably from the off-gassing from the paint, likely from the hardener and the clear coat. I can happily say this guitar smells normal. First one. All right. Okay, the bad. So what is bad about this guitar? I'm gonna go ahead and say that actually I like this trem. This is the best trem system I've received from them. The problem with it is though, I don't know if you can see back here, there is no shim under these springs for my fine tuners. So with it resting deck like this, the problem of course is that as soon as I touch these, I'm adjusting the pitch of the entire bridge. Everything's gonna be out of tune. So this is probably going to get changed. It's not a bad bridge. I believe this would actually be a good bridge in any floating guitar, and you probably could float it. It seems to be of a decent quality. The machining on it is a lot better than the bridges I've had from AliExpress in the past. This arm feels really good. It's nice and tight. The last ones I had, you could see me, I was pulling them, you know, half out of here. They were just absolute garbage. This one feels pretty good. So I will say A+ AliExpress. The bridge is good. Just if you're going to put one on something that's likely going to be decked like this, it'd be nice to have a shim underneath there just to ensure that the springs don't rest on the body and adjust the tuning overall. That would be helpful. Thanks. As far as other items that are bad, I'm gonna call out the pickup here. It's okay. I mean, it's good but not great. It's usable, sure, but it's a bit dark sounding, a bit thin. It's hot, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily fantastic. I'm gonna call it bad. I'll probably change it. As far as their description, they just say that it's a passive humbucker. Clearly, and yeah, it doesn't, it sounds kind of hot-ish, but not too crazy. It's probably just like your regular run-of-the-mill straight from China, cheap humbucker. Works okay. Obviously it's not split. I mean, I'll probably end up doing something clever like that when I change it, just for something 4-wired, just to get a little bit more tonal versatility out of this guitar. But as far as the pot actually feels pretty good. Movement on that feels half decent. As far as other things that are bad, I don't know if you can see here in the finish, you see these little specks and particles, like there's a whole bunch, hold on. There's a whole bunch in here, there's little white spots. I don't know if you can see that outside of the shine. Those are particles that are actually in the finish. I mean, the finish itself, superficially, the clear coat's pretty okay, but there's all sorts of particles and imperfections in it. Again, you're not paying much for these guitars. I think when I bought this, it was listed at like 250 bucks Canadian on Ali. I mean, I had to pay shipping on top of that, but again, really cheap guitar. Better clear than I can do. Not the worst clear in the world, but there are particles and all sorts of imperfections in the clear itself. This one had a few scratches on it as well, which I don't know if I'm gonna be able to catch in the light. But nothing that I can really knock too extremely on, of course, because this is a inexpensive guitar. And to carry on with the bad, I don't know if you can see it here. I'll see if I can get the light to pick it up on my neck plate here. I don't know if it'll show. There's a pretty big nasty scratch on that. This showed up to me like that. I'm assuming these neck plates are probably just some stock parts they have kicking around in a bin somewhere and likely just got scratched in storage. Not the end of the world. I could change it if I care. Oh, there we go. There's a good angle. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty bad. Definitely poor quality, but again, this is an inexpensive guitar, so I can't really knock them too much on the hardware itself. Again, the bridge is pretty good, just inappropriate for this particular guitar. Nothing to mention, these strings obviously are super cheap. The guitar was more or less cheap. I think they're 10s, they feel like 10s. Anyway, this is dropped down obviously to Motley Crue tuning, D standard. But through shipping, just being in a container for, I don't know, we'll call it 3 months, these strings obviously oxidize like crazy. So as you're playing this, if you haven't changed the strings, your hands will get quite dirty and your fingertips will turn more or less kind of grayish black. Just from, of course, all the oxidization which is going on here. Nothing crazy. I mean, realistically, you should probably change these strings anyway. I mean, I don't know what they are. I don't know if they're any good. So yeah, there's that. So something we should probably talk about as being bad. I don't really know what materials are used for this. I mean, the specifications provided by AliExpress in this guitar are terrible. I mean, all they tell me is that it uses Brazil wood somewhere in the bow. B-O-W. I have no idea what that is. I'm assuming maybe the neck. Maybe this is Brazilian rosewood. I'm not exactly sure, though. There's a bit of an issue trying to move Brazilian rosewood around internationally right now, so I'm not sure how they got around that, if that is Brazilian rosewood. I don't know. The neck looks like it's obviously maple back here, but the body, I mean, this is, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know what that is. I'm going to assume it's something cheap like basswood or basswood just because it's very light. But again, I don't know. As far as what they provided on this guitar, they didn't really mention what the wood was made out of. So it's just a guess. No idea, people. All right, time for the ugly. The obvious thing right here. Yeah, if you look at these girls logos, they're not quite as pink as they should be, and if you are a diehard Motley fan, it is quite obvious that these are not positioned correctly. This, of course, is nothing new. The AliExpress EVH knockoff I had a while ago was the same sort of thing. The stripes were kind of there, but in the wrong positions. I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, a quick internet search will show you pictures of Mick holding one of these, and it's quite obvious where these actually belong. So yeah, Ali, that's just plain ugly and a little bit sloppy. The other thing I will say, I don't know if you can see these in the actual girls logos themselves. You see all sorts of black coming through. I think what that probably is likely these are just decals that they stick on after they paint it black and then paint over it. And if I had to guess, I mean, you can really see it on this one here, there's all sorts of black in there. I think what's probably happening is this is maybe delaminated or pulling away or just not resting properly with the adhesive they're using, which is showing through in the final product. Honestly, I probably should have just bought this in black, stuck my own decals on there, and I probably wouldn't have had this problem, but you know what, it was inexpensive, and I was kind of thinking that I might put a guitar skin over this anyway, so this isn't really a big concern. And carrying on with the ugly, this one is one that really irritates me. Take a look at that bridge pickup. Notice anything weird? Like, I obviously asked them to take the Kramer headstock off because that's, you know, counterfeit, but look at this pickup. Seymour Duncan. And not even Seymour Duncan. Look how they position this. I mean, that is way off center. Like, who put that on there? How can you honestly put that on something and be like, yep, that looks good. That's perfect. Send it out the door. I would have preferred if this just had nothing on it. I mean, I don't necessarily like this pickup, but I don't hate it as far as the sound goes. But this, like, that's not staying in there. That just looks terrible. It's obviously brand appropriation. And it says Seymour Duncan, but I like to see less of this Duncan because that's just, look at that. I mean, that's just silly. That is so off-center. Like, what are you, really? Oh, and obviously, I mean, if you get up close here, you can see it says licensed under Floyd Rose Patents. Based on the obvious authenticity of the Seymour Duncan logo, I'm going to go ahead and say that this definitely was not licensed in any capacity by Floyd Rose. But yeah, the trem seems okay. All right, tones. Yeah, I'll play some riffs and stuff on this. I'm not going to do many leads aside from that little noodly thing I did at the beginning, mostly because as I've been talking about, I haven't adjusted this bridge at all. The intonation on here is terrible. If I use this bar at all, it's going to go out of tune as well, just because of the springs resting the way they rest on the body. Oh, that's another thing I will mention about the Ugly. I don't know if you can see in here, but if I were to press it, you can see that as it's just resting there like that with the springs, it is eating into the finish. You're not going to really see this stuff, but it's by no means good. Anyway, here's some tunes, just me noodling around. Be gentle, the intonation is way off. I did tune this, but as soon as I get past the 3rd fret, it's going to sound awful. So be warned. Some random clean tones. Stuff like that. I guess I should probably attempt what you're actually looking for. Here we go. Pretty lifeless. Oh, I also mentioned, this is a clean channel. If I dig in, it's breaking up a little bit. So this pickup does have some jam. A little bit surprising. Not terrible, honestly. My big beef with it, of course, is just when you look at it, there's some obvious problems. So yeah, anyways, you can probably hear the intonation is pretty terrible on this. The pickup honestly doesn't sound that bad. It's not great, but it's not terrible. I can totally live with this. But of course, there's other issues with that. Let's see how this thing cleans up. Just rolling off the volume. Not terrible, actually. Anyways, there you have it. That is my quick review on the AliExpress Mick Kramer knockoff guitar. I mean, obviously the real Kramer, I think this is recessed and kind of on a beveled edge. This one isn't. I don't really mind. The thing that I wanted was a Telecaster with the Floyd Rose, and this basically is the shell of that. Obviously the finish leaves a bit to be desired, a lot to be desired, and the pickup is just plain silly. These are things I'm probably going to change. I figured for the money, again, I think I said I paid $250 or $270 for this before shipping. If I was just to buy the parts to build one of these myself, I'd be in probably more than that already. So this is a good starting point. And of course, some of you who have been following this channel know that I have experienced some issues with graphic placement on AliExpress guitars before. I took that into account when I ordered this one and figured, you know what, if these are off, which they are, I can of course go ahead and buy myself a nice guitar skin, put that over the top, cover this up, and I'll still have the shell of a shred tele underneath. So yeah, I'll probably do that. I might make another video on this guitar as we go along. Obviously this bridge is going to get changed, this pickup is going to get changed, and it'll probably end up with a guitar skin on it at some point. And I don't know, if you guys are interested, let me know. Maybe I'll make a couple update videos, just how things are going and what my thoughts are on this guitar, if I'm still liking it or not. Again, so far the neck on this one, out of all of the AliExpress guitars I've played, feels the best. I'm really happy they didn't put anything on the headstock. I might stick something on there if I feel it just looks a bit too plain, but good on AliExpress for not doing it at my request. I really appreciate that, and it also ensures the guitar comes to me and doesn't get seized by customs, which is quite important because I have no idea how I'd get my money back otherwise. But yeah, as far as the shell goes, I'm gonna go ahead and say, yeah, this is pretty decent. I mean, it's not good. This isn't like Squire quality for this kind of money or anything like that, but if you're looking for a shred tele, yeah, this is all right. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you found this informative, enjoyed it in any way, please make sure you hit like and subscribe and help this channel grow a little bit. And as per usual, just keep on shredding, and we'll talk to you in the next video. Bye for now.